you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
3, 2, 1. We're going.
Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your boy, the host, the Happy Hoodlum himself, Mr. Kemper Woodruff. And we have our strong man, Mr. Zachary Sampson. Although today, the official big boy himself, Brian Navarro, is in the building. Give us a flex for the one time, son. Yeah.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
We're doing really good. And to give the viewers a little bit of a background, Zack has been really inspired by Brian, and I'm sure anyone that's been to Crunch and seen him just walking around, seeing what he's putting up numbers-wise is like, sweet Jesus, I could only imagine, and they still can't imagine it, But you've really been an inspiration, and not just in your weightlifting, but in your kindness and in your mentorship. And Zack had told me a bunch about you before I actually got to interact with you more and more. So this podcast has been a long time brewing, even though we hit you up about it maybe like a week or two ago. So thank you for coming on.
Anytime.
And so where did you get your start in weightlifting?
Everyone says when they're pretty young. I started when I was 11, and a quick story about that too. I don't think I've really shared this with anybody other than people at my church. It started off with actually here in my garage when I was 11, and my cousin was actually here. We had like an old school bench and everything. He threw on about 100, 120 pounds on that bar. And he actually pulled me out of my room and was like, Brian, you're lifting this or you're going to die. I'm not going to save you from this. And you're just going to do it anyways. And I just remember being so scared. I like blew my mind and I like forced myself to just get it up. And he was like, dude, not a lot of kids your age at 11 years old could actually even bench that. So that's actually really surprising.
That's sweet.
Wild.
You know what's kind of funny, bro? So rest in peace to my brother Paul, man. He did a similar thing to me, bro. I went over to his house, and I still have his weight bench, right? But he was like, he put 25s on both sides, so way less glorious than what you did, right? He just threw some 25s on both sides, and I was like, this is right beginning of freshman year, right? And we had gone over, and we were all stoned. We all used to love to smoke weed together, and then he would just bench. But going into like high school, he was putting up crazy numbers for his squat and his bench press and stuff. And so he loved to get his friends like stoned and then try and make them exercise with them and see who could hang, right? And I couldn't get it up, bro. I was so nervous in my head, bro. I was like, and he was sitting there mocking me. So I salute you off the rip for that, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I died under the bar. There's a difference.
My first time working out, it was like a regular Olympic bar, and I put 35s on each side. I got pinned so fast. I was like, there was no one else in the gym either. I was by myself. So like that was the first time that I actually had to get the bar to my hips and like learn how to get out from underneath a bar on a bench. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Okay. So I guess I got a different question now that we've gone to like the introduction. What's like your biggest fail on your in your progression? What was like the weight that really like you struggled with for a long time and you plateaued at?
Oh, man. It would definitely be a 365 bench. That was probably one of the biggest things that I was stuck at for the longest time ever. And I realized, like, in order for me to progress, I just needed to get fat. That was honestly it. That was an honest truth. That was just, for you to be strong, you need to be bigger. In order for you to be bigger, you need to eat. And I was probably at my heaviest at the time. I was probably 260, 262. And then that's when I was able to bench like 405.
Whoa. So
wild.
you took a huge jump.
Me being at my fattest and just doing 405 for the first time ever, I was like, I can't anymore. I just remember waking up every single morning, just wheezing, trying to breathe, because I was so fat.
That's crazy. Okay. So how much do you weigh now?
If I was on a scale, a little more than 250.
Okay. And what numbers are you putting up? Because I know that you're at like peak performance. Zach's told me some crazy records you're trying to break.
Now I broke the state record for deadlift at 675. My bench is at 405, and then my squat is at 650, 635.
Okay. So see, this is the type of shit I'm talking about because I'm sweating just thinking about that. 675 pounds. Talk your shit, son. Are you kidding me? What was that like? Because anyone that's seen maybe like the Ronnie Coleman documentaries and things like that, where you see him in the gym like juiced and just fucking going for it, you know? What was that experience like for you?
I can't remember half of it just because I passed out midway through. But I just remember walking up. This was in competition too. Walking up to that bar and just setting it up, feeling that grip into my hands, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is honestly what I worked up for. And I just remember pulling it, getting past my knees, and I just started closing my eyes and blacking out while I was still pulling it up.
Wow. So you locked your knees out, dropped the bar, and were on your feet?
I was about to just pass over. It was, you could see it. I think there's a video out there from my last recording of the live stream. And just, you see me just starting to stumble forward a little bit.
I seen that video. I remember seeing the guy, like your spotter, grab you and shit. Yeah. I was like, fuck.
But it counted for competition's sake, right?
It did, yeah. It did.
Okay. Dude, that is bananas. Okay. So, all right. I just got to take a second to process that one. That's so visual. Just anyone that's come up to a bar and like felt the grip of like the texture in your hands and stuff. What do you do like mentally to prepare yourself for competition though? And where do you compete?
Back then, before, I'm going to keep talking about church just because it changed my life, but before church and everything, it was all anger. It was all frustration. It was all just a mental motivation of just either I'm going to break myself before I do this, or I'm just going to do it. But then now it's just mental clarity. It's just clearing my mind and just trying to figure out what can I do more efficiently in each and every single lift that I do.
So how has the journey, because I'm also very religious, you know, how is your relationship? I talk about God all the time on the podcast and the relationship that you get to God through your spirit. And it's really that connection of like getting a relationship, you know, really talking to God the way we talk to each other. That means good things, bad things, you know. How has your relationship with God changed your life? And give us a little before and after in the weightlifting journey for us.
Ooh. I could go on forever talking about this just because I started off, Zack remembers me when I started going and stuff. Like, I remember drinking. I remember taking a whole bunch of over-the-counter pain medicine and just being addicted to it. I remember going through each and every single day of work taking the pills just so that way I can just get through the day. And I just remember not feeling emotion every single time. And like going through that really hurt me more than anything else. And then when I met my girlfriend, she actually brought me to church and she introduced me to that. And I think that was probably the biggest blessing in disguise, because that really helped me figure out where am I at mentally, where am I spiritually, and then where am I at emotionally. And my relationship with God has definitely gotten a lot better. I've been going for about a year. And I could say that I'm taking baptism classes. I want to get baptized. I haven't been baptized yet. And I definitely see myself progressing and being a little bit more involved with the church. So.
Okay. So I also have a question. Did you have a moment of like that Holy Ghost moment? Was it a divine intervention kind of thing? Or was it processual like weightlifting was?
Oh, it was just right then and there. I remember going to one of the sermons and everything. It was a youth service and everything. And I just remember listening to one of our preachers there, and everything that he talked about was just happening in my life, word for word. And it was just a click in my head. And I was like, I needed to hear this. I needed to hear him say, you can do better. Walk with God, hold his hand, and he will guide you. And those words just put me through it. And I could definitely feel that snap. And it was the same thing for the gym too. It was like, you walk yourself through things and you walk with the people around you that do help you out, that do bring you up. And working with Zack a little bit more because he was my client, he knows what he can do, he knows what he should be doing, and he can see that progression come in and out every single time we talk.
Mm-hmm. And so was it an emotional moment for you, or was it more intellectual, like, all right, well, that checks the box, that checks the box? Or was it that, because I know when I've gone through things, especially like when you're in that numb state, you know, it's really the fact that you do feel something. And it's not just that like, oh, it's going to be all right. It's more than that. It's beyond description. It's like you're feeling that Beyonce's hitting a high note and you're getting that like tingle. You know, it's like everything wrapped in one, at least when I've thought about kind of that Holy Ghost experience. It's close to ecstasy, but on a whole nother level, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was everything, honestly. Everything right then and there. Like, I would never show myself crying in front of people. That was probably the first time I've ever done that. I dropped to my knees. I had to sit in my chair for the first time ever, and I just felt this warmth and this encompass of just the Holy Ghost surrounding me a little bit more, and it felt so good. And I haven't even talked about this yet with anybody at my church, but I'm glad to be doing this here because it gives me a door to walk through to open up a little bit more about it. And I appreciate you guys bringing me on.
Fuck yeah, dude. Always.
Yeah, dude. And I also want to give a moment to for you to talk about your relationship with your girl, you know, your woman, because good women really can, they feel things different, you know? And like as a man, what we don't really talk about is not understanding intimacy, right? We're all supposed to just be like, no, I got this, you know what I mean? But I remember like, and for me, intimacy came out first in like a sexual way because I didn't have the, you know, relationship or friendship with a girl that genuinely like was my friend. It was like, no, you need to do this because it's good for you. Instead, it was like, just feel me, you know, which is a different arena than what we're talking about. But it brings you to that same place of like having to address worthiness inside of yourself. Yeah. You know? So, sorry, that's kind of a long-winded thing, but do you want to talk about like how your relationship has also helped evolve you as a man?
Oh yeah. Going through everything that I did before, all the past people that I've talked to and whatnot. She has definitely helped me be more open. She has definitely helped me just feel a little bit more, be more emotional around people. I remember closing myself off, even to Zack as well, just closing off and being so close-minded to certain things. I just remember having a tough talk with him one time and just letting myself go, learning to let myself go in certain situations, because it's important to the both of us to see where we're at mentally, just so that way we can help each other grow that way. So that way, emotionally, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's interesting how life is so full of paradoxes, right? Where it's like the strongest thing that you can do is surrender. But it's an emotional readiness, that takes place at different times in life on people's journey, and it's not anything that's on paper. And I think it's interesting because I see so many metaphors in life, and it's like, if you look at the mentality of someone who's a lifter, there's someone that's having to face themselves every day. And I've said for a long time, what I love about weightlifting and the gym in general is it's one of the last honest places on earth. You either can or you fucking can't, and it keeps you honest. There's no way around it. You can do it or you cannot do it yet.
Yeah, that's a really strong word that people don't understand. It's the word yet. And it was funny because we were talking about surrendering. What popped up in my head was, have you guys watched The Last Avatar? The anime?
The Airbender. Last Airbender.
Yeah. There was an episode where King Boomy, I don't know if you guys remember King Boomy, he got captured and stuff, and he was like, he said something about surrendering. He was like, figuring out when to surrender and when the right time is to just let yourself be free. Something along that. And I keep thinking about that every now and then. It's just like surrendering myself to not only to my girl, but surrendering myself to God, surrendering myself to certain aspects of my life, just so that way I can see where I'm at from a different perspective.
I talk about this a lot on the podcast, but that is the perfect setup to explain the role of the observer. Like, I've started going, because I'm a Christian, but I go to a Hindu temple, right? And as I've been called to read the Bhagavad Gita, it's interesting because the whole entire book, right, it takes place on a battlefield. And the whole book is about Krishna, which is like Christ consciousness, the supreme personality of God, right? Explaining to Arjuna how to go through this battle. And that's like human frailty meeting like divine spiritual consciousness, right? And we don't realize that we are not doing near as much as we think we are. And most of us are just functioning by this default programming of our spirit's evolution that we're being like called to and through, And when you have this realization moment of surrender where everything's not only okay, but it got better, the less involved you are in it almost. Like the more you took your hands off the wheel, the quicker route you took to everything you want, and the more pleasurable and scenic everything was. It's like you got out of the driver's seat and you got over in the passenger seat. You know what I mean? Of your life. But this is a perfect chance to kind of talk about the power of taking that detachment from life so you can actually be analytical in a way without condemning yourself. You know what I mean? Sorry, that was deep. I don't know if there's anything to add to that, but
yeah, that was really deep for no reason. But I mean, you and I have talked about it a lot, Kemper. That kind of it ties into the book that I'm reading, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. We literally talked about it last episode, but in terms of like what stoicism is, that's basically what it is to just kind of be okay with the things that are going on around you and not to judge others for the things that they do, rather control your emotions in terms of what they do, because you can't control outside events. You can control how you react to them, is essentially what stoicism is, and that's kind of what you're talking about in terms of just observing things, and what they are is what they are at the end of the day, and you can't really do anything about it.
So I guess my next question would be, how has becoming a leader and like becoming integrated in a church community affected your coaching and mentoring in the gym? Because you are a coach.
So just because the position that I was put in now, being in a fitness manager role, it changed my perspective on how to actually work with people in a different perspective of, I'm not higher than you, but I want to work with you. And it was the same thing as going to church. Is I have God as my higher output, and I look to him for everything, just like how I have everyone else going to me for it. But what can I do to be on the same level with people and see how we can move through things together, other than being the one on top, being the one powerful. I'm the type of person that wants to be just like on a battlefield with my team, with my unit, than I would be just in the barracks.
Mm-hmm. Zach, do you have anything to add to that real quick? I feel like you got something brewing off of that one.
Well, I mean, it's mostly just an example, because, I know, like, at the time, Brian was doing this because he was slightly stressed out, but he even takes on the tasks of, like, other people's jobs at the gym. And so, like, he would mop all the time, which is technically my job. I don't fucking mop, but he mops. He was just started cleaning stuff up and just like pitching in wherever he can. And I had to remind him, I was like, yo, dude, like, if you want help with something, let me know, because this is just like, we're a team. So you don't have to do everything by yourself. If you need help with something, let me know.
What that makes me think about, and I was talking about this audiobook that I read, and it's a fantastic book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And I was talking about this on the last podcast, but I actually had an experience with it today. So before I want to start that, I also have to preface it with a quote, which is, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And in the book, there's this slave that's going to be sold into slavery. And he's told by this other dude who's experienced slavery before, he says, my advice to you is to love the work. And he said, if you love your work, if you love being a slave, love your master, love everything about your craft, what's going to happen out of that is you'll find your freedom, basically. And so I had this moment today where it was like, because I working at the gun store, it gets busy as fuck, you know? And so you're constantly like talking to people all day, reading their like comfort level, explaining physics. What's too much to tell this person? What's too little to tell this person? How much safety do they have versus bravado? You're just going through this whole thing all the time, right? And sometimes I would run downstairs to grab a gun for someone. And I would be like, oh, right, I got like 30 seconds before I can get back upstairs. And I found that was way more draining to me than just turning around and going, I'm going to love this work. I'm going to truly be the best that I can be all the way through it, you know? And that means if I'm feeling good, I'm still pushing just as hard, right? I'm not trying to let off the brakes. And in me doing that, I was like, how is it that I'm working harder than I worked before, but I have more energy? And it's really this spiritual underpinning of everything, you know? It's that energy and clarity in your mind. You know, you never lose that frequency of success and progress. And it also makes you come back around to that like united aspect, you know, that communal aspect of I'm not higher than this person. Just because I'm the one running and getting the gun, or I'm the one explaining this craft to somebody, doesn't mean that I'm up here and they're down here. Like, we need to both be level. And, you know, if I was to walk into their business, which I very well may, because once I get off work, that's when my work starts. That's when I'm really working on me. That's when my real job starts. You know? You know, that's when things are going to go the extra mile, I guess. Thoughts on that, you guys?
Yeah, jumping onto that, it goes into what Zach was saying when I was going and doing some of his job and stuff. That's where that level balance comes into play, where even though your job is to be like cleaning and everything, that doesn't mean that we should all have a part in something, right? That doesn't mean that we should all stick to our main focus. When as a team, if we think of it as a boat, the whole ship crew, everyone has to go all hands on deck. And that means doing one thing at a time, multitasking, figuring out what can I do in certain areas to help out the team. Right. And going about that too, it's also in the gym and lifting and whatnot, there's a community where we all help each other out. It's a community where each and every single time someone enters a gym that's new, who's trying to figure out what to do with their lives in that aspect, we are there in that gym community to help bring each other up. We are there to help people push through their own boundaries. That way they can see their own limitations. Right? It's what can I do as a trainer? What can I do as a coach to help this new person come in and see what they can do for themselves to be better the next step?
So what inspires you now inside of the gym and outside of the gym? And then what inspired you as a kid? Like, did you grow up and it's like, I know growing up for me, it was like, I always wanted to be in like the special forces and stuff. Like, I always admired, you know, Navy SEALs, Delta Force guys, all those dudes, you know. What was it for you? Was it that you saw your cousin for the first time? Or how did you get into this?
I can say now, in and out of the gym for me would be God. Just because if I didn't move on, if I didn't see the church or anything, you guys wouldn't see me here. I would have committed suicide, jumped off the Glen Jackson Bridge maybe 2 years ago. And then another thing would be who inspired me the most were certain people in my family, my grandpa and my aunt, the two most humbling people I could ever meet, the two people who taught me how to be humble, how to treat people with kindness, and how to go through about each and every single day willing to help someone.
Okay, so that night on the Glen Jackson, let's double back on that because that's really impactful, right? Because we see you and everyone that sees you from the outside, and I'm sure how you see yourself now is like that powerful person, you know? What brought you to your knees that night? What was that like? Was it just drugs, or were you bullied? Did you ever feel that you weren't getting the attention that you wanted or needed? What was it?
It was the numbness. It was the numbness and feeling like, why should I continue to be doing this to myself? Why am I not reaching out to people? Why am I not doing the things that I should be doing? And yeah, it was from the painkillers and whatnot. I was just driving one night, actually heading up to see my girlfriend. And I just remember I could just turn my wheel right now, boom, and I wouldn't care.
Well, thank you, first of all, for sharing that with us. And secondly, in terms of like uh, opioids in particular, you know, pain pills, they numb you out. And so it's really hard to make that distinction between I am bad and what I'm doing is bad. Was there anything that gave you clarity on that? It might not have been in that moment, but you know, in hindsight, looking back on it, was it the love that you got from your girl first before you even made it to church? What was it?
It was when I could really feel how bad my body could hurt just from not taking it. I remember 3 days of just not taking it. I literally gave the bottle to my manager and was like, keep that away from me. I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to have it anymore. I remember 3 days into me not taking it, my shoulder started hurting a lot more. My knees started hurting a lot more. I remember saying like, I could actually physically feel some things because I'm not letting something take over me, something bad take over me.
Hmm. How did it affect your digestion and your sleep?
I didn't sleep. I remember only getting like 2-3 hours worth of sleep every night, and my clients could see it. I would have 6 a.m. clients, and they would see me half asleep during all of our sessions. I would literally sleep in one of my sessions, and I would get caught. And I remember like, I need to switch it up. I need to make myself better. I need to find a way to make myself healthier.
What was your health journey like nutritionally?
I have pictures. I can send it to Zack. I actually showed him earlier today of me my sophomore year and how skinny I was versus now. And I just remember when I was going through college, all I had to do was just bring food throughout the day because I remember I wouldn't have time to eat. And also through college, I was a line cook. I remember working after college as a line cook and just eating all the food there. And I just remember figuring out, okay, in an unhealthy environment with what I have right now, what can I do to make it healthy? And I remember switching things up for me personally, even though I had to pay more for it. I remember seeing the difference in just switching what our sausage was to our chicken and then making a burrito bowl instead of having an actual burrito. And I just remember messing with a whole bunch of foods and stuff. And that's what helped me become a little bit more food conscious and be more willing to cook more. And that's why I love going into cooking now.
All right. It's funny how simple things can make that radical shift, right? And it seems so stupid. It's like, bro, all it was a tortilla that made the light bulb go off, right? Tortilla. Tortilla. And the whole world of exploring into food was open to you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what do you cook now?
Anything I could find that tastes good.
Are you a recipe man? You know, like, do you look at recipes? Did you ever dial in on nutrition and look at, like, what each little thing actually does for you, like nutrient-wise and stuff like that, where to find them?
I am a recipe man. My girlfriend actually got me recipe books for Christmas. It was super sick because I was actually thinking about getting some. But macro-wise, I don't take a look at that, but I should, just because I am on a weight loss journey right now. I should definitely look into my macros a little bit more and see what I can do to dial it.
So you're saying eating pizza bagels might have to go?
Yes, they're good, but yeah.
We had pizza bagels at work today.
Okay, so hey, bagel bites go hard in the paint, so I
They
understand.
do. They do.
It's the nostalgia, you know what I mean? It's like tasting your childhood. But so you're talking about your new goal, essentially, which is reshaping your body, you know, rather than like strength feats, you know, and being a lifter. Have you kind of redefined yourself and done that through your image? Like, how have your goals changed? Because did you reach like a mountaintop when you were like, all right, maybe 700 isn't a fucking necessary goal? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember talking to a whole bunch of people like, I'm just tired of waking up fat. I'm tired of waking up wheezing in the morning because I have a whole bunch of mass on my chest just weighing me down. And I remember switching it up for the past couple of weeks, going back into my athletic training and whatnot, and trying to figure out what can I do to stay athletic while staying strong and losing weight. So it's more so finding, again, that balance.
So do you set goals based more on feel and kind of bro science your way there? Or do you actually write down like Zack does, like, I want to hit this, you know? And so for your case, it might be a quality of like your body proportion and be like, I want to see me with abs or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually have my own program that I write down and try to figure out what I want to do for each specific day. And I'm also setting up goals at the very bottom to see what can I do within a certain amount of time.
Okay. What were some of the first breakthroughs that you got in understanding weightlifting? Like, was it stabilization? Like, did you realize that your ligaments weren't as strong as your will and your body was able to actually get things up? But then it's like, hey, I wound up injuring myself. What was your journey kind of like with that?
Oh yeah, that as a power lifter, everyone goes through injuries. But as a powerlifting coach, I've learned that I need to work on efficiency more than anything else, being efficient in my movement patterns, being efficient in what I can do goal wise, and setting that up for myself a little bit more. And one thing that I'm doing now is trying to figure out what can I do to be more efficient with my body.
Okay. Very cool. I'm trying to think of a couple more questions. You answer questions quicker than I'm coming up with them. You know what I mean?
That's a first. What the fuck?
Yeah, okay. Bro, he's efficient, okay? His efficiency goals are hit for the podcast, right? We just got to get him to translate in the gym. But no, it's like, it's just kind of an interesting thought process for me because I'm in that point of like, I've told Zack, I'm like, I want to see what I look like at like 170 pounds, but I want to do it in a way that's sustainable, you know? And so I think like my first goal is like 145, 150, you know, see where I look at through there, which is only like 10, 15 pounds, you know, and I can totally do it, but learning how to maximize it, you know, that's why part of this podcast I've been eating and stuff, you know, is I'm learning how not to bend and how weightlifting is really like a lifestyle. Like when you want to body build, when you want to sculpt yourself, are there any things that that were difficult for you outside of the gym that contributed to, you know, your performance in the gym?
Everyone says this, but sleep, trying to figure out my sleep cycle, trying to figure out the best time to sleep, how long I should be sleeping for, and how much of a quality sleep I could get, because that's what people don't see. That's what people don't think of. Quality sleep, which is just sleeping itself. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the quality of you laying in bed comfortably and just going to bed like that versus, okay, I'm forcing myself to sleep, so I'm going to take all of this melatonin just so I can knock out.
Have you ever tried yin yoga?
No. What is that?
So it's a restorative kind of yoga that I learned. Shout out to Saraswati Hewitt and Matt Schulman who taught me. And I'll gladly sit down and like teach you how to do it. But it's a kind of stretching that actually destabilizes the ligaments. It calms your central nervous system. So it's great for people with trauma. It helps to stimulate digestion and it prepares your body for sleep. And so the sleep that you get is way better. You also develop through this rhythmic breathing far more serotonin because 90% of your serotonin is developed in your stomach, you know, and it helps to work with your endocrine system to balance your hormones. And that's why it can take someone who has over active adrenal glands, you know, and who's been through really true PTSD, you know, and shift them out of that realm where the reptilian brain of fight or flight takes over and they're in this anxious state into their higher cognitive functioning by calming the central nervous system using breath work. And part of it is that spirit, you know, because you're drawing your chi all the way through your circuitry. And so one thing that people love about exercising is that it gets you out of your head. Now, why does it do that? When you're walking around all the time, most people are breathing in their upper chest. And when your mind's overstimulated, your awareness is right here. When you stretch or when you lift, you're actually sending your awareness to a different point in your body, right? And so it can't be in two places quite at the same time. It has to either be here or here, right? And as you breathe, that breath is coming through all of your chakras and balancing the flow of energy within the circuitry of your body. You see what I'm saying? And so it's funny. It's kind of like how when people get really stressed out and they're cigarette smokers, they go and smoke a cigarette partially for the nicotine, but what are they doing? They're taking a deep breath. That's the deepest breath that a lot of people take, you know? And the gym can kind of become a substitute for that for some people. But yeah, there's also, it gets into a lot of nuance, you know, yin and yang, the masculine and feminine energies of the body. And that, so fuck it, while we're on the topic, I'm gonna just do it. So in Chinese medicine, rather than showing the man like this and how they do in Western medicine, they show them like this. And so all the muscles on the front side of your body are considered the yin meridian. And meridians are energy channels that flow through the muscles, right? And the yin meridian, because yin is like the calm, still, unchangeable aspect of something, right? Is representative of the female energy that balances within us, right? And think about where we start as a fetus, right? So all these muscles on the front side of your body draw you inward. Now, the yang is the back side. And so that's like all your, what would be called the erector muscles, the things that stand up. It's the masculine energy. It's the way that, you know, things are fast moving and it cultivates heat within the body and things of that nature. And so learning yin yoga has an inextricable tie with balancing the yin and the yang. We live in a very young society where people are telling you like, go, go, go. And they're also telling you, work out, get stronger, get bigger, present yourself as this big thing, right? And so for some people, your energy can kind of just the same way as, I don't want to say your energy can atrophy, you know, if it's not stimulated. Your chakras can break down, and not that they're like dissipating in the same way your body does, right? You don't use your arm, you lose the muscle, but it's not like that muscle can't be redeveloped and allowed. And that's kind of a clunky analogy on how chakras work, because when you release a chakra, it's like an overwhelming amount of energy pours through you. And it's a different aspect of your consciousness. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's a whole science behind it, and using yoga as a tool has really changed my life, because I realized it's not just what I do, it's how I recover from what I do that makes the difference in the growth.
To simplify that, you're stretching for like 2 to 4 minutes at a time.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
That's why I got to keep Zack around. He's my translator.
Fuck. Yeah, you hold one pose for like 2 to 4 minutes at a time. And that's what destabilizes your muscle or your joints. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got the whole scientific breakdown of yin yoga. Good to know.
Well, yeah, 'cause the chi in your body stabilizes at the joints. And so that's why when you feel like certain pain, oftentimes it's at the joints rather than a specific muscle. Like if you don't exercise for a long time, it's like your hips get tight. You know, your knees start to hurt. And it's really the chi not flowing properly through your system. Random fact, there's a piece of fascia. So fascia is what you're getting into and restabilizing it, reorienting itself to its natural pose in yin yoga, because every muscle is surrounded by connective tissue that's made up of fascia, right? And so as you exercise, right, I'm training my muscle to contract, and then in training it to shorten, it then hardens around it, and you lose range of motion because that connective tissue that stabilizes the muscle is now stabilizing it at a shorter and shorter and shorter range, right? And so when you get in there for a longer amount of time, it kind of reorients itself. But I didn't know this because I took a breathwork workshop from Matt Schulman, and he said there's what's called a pericardium fascia that's attached to your heart. And so he said breathing is not just to take in air, it's to get breath to your heart, which is where we're meant to live from, because everything in your heart, to wrap back to like the spiritual side of things, our heart and our soul and that love that we're here to express in life through whatever we choose to do, you know, whatever we're called to do, it defies logic. Logic will say, oh, well, you can only do this, that, and the other. And love will be like, no, just go do this thing. Go do this thing that just seems senseless to everyone else or senseless to your own mind of how to succeed. And somehow it becomes everything you need. You know?
Fuck. That got deep. Question, Brian. What are some unorthodox things that you've implemented, maybe not just in the gym specifically, but just in life in general, that have helped improve your physical capabilities? Because the things that you do and the weight that you move is not fucking base level human.
Unorthodox things. Oh, man.
Like, is it the shoes that you wear, the fucking way you scratch your nose, however the fuck it is, like, you know, whatever it is.
You eat all your food with chopsticks?
Yeah. Like, what's something that, like, that you started doing, whether it was in the gym or out of the gym, that most people probably wouldn't think about?
Oh, dude. Let me think about that real quick.
Okay.
Just because my way of understanding now has definitely changed outside of me being competition mode. So
Yeah.
me being in competition mode, it would be the way I breathe, like the way I would set my breathing patterns up in between each and every single lift. Like, what would I do to breathe heavier? What would I do to breathe constantly? What would I do to breathe slowly before each and every single movement before I started? That's one of them.
The lungs are a powerful muscle.
They are.
For real.
They very much are. Another thing is, I'm a man of music. I'll listen to anything. Depending on what lift I'm hitting at the time, I can say for sure that I do listen to Mariah Carey sometimes whenever I deadlift.
Okay.
And
I
that's just
remember
because
I remember you saying that you were listening to gospel one time when you were hitting like
I
close to
was
600 on deadlift. And I was like, "What? That's crazy. I don't know if I could get in the
Oregon.
mindset with gospel, but
yeah, no, yeah.
Hey, bro.
I was listening to gospel when I was hitting 675, just because the
Damn.
way the music hit me, because I was being so spiritually driven and how I am now. It's like whenever I lift, I feel the presence a little bit more and talking to God in between each and every single set, because I'm asking for the strength and I'm asking for the power and I'm asking for the guidance to help me lift everything that I do.
Mm.
Word.
Devotion. That's what it
Mhm.
is. You're living a life of devotion in service, you
Mhm.
know? And if you think about it, when they say we're created in the image of God, right? That's what God does for us. He's devoted love and service to providing us with the ability to create in the same way that He creates. You see what I'm saying? And so doing that is really becoming God-like, you know, living in your truest form, in what's actually most natural to us and what rejuvenates us on a spiritual level.
Shout out to Maverick City and Bethel Music. They honestly got me through a lot.
Okay. We'll have to check them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to steer away from the secret of Mariah Carey, though. What the fuck about
Oh
Mariah
yeah.
Carey makes you want to
Oh
live big,
yeah.
son?
Bro,
Who
it's
hurt you?
no one. It was just it's not the emotion of hurt or anything. It's the emotion of just living in that moment. It's the emotion
Mm,
of being on top of what you want to do with every single intent of having fun.
mm. That's a very different. All right, so you're listening to like Mariah Carey Christmas album and shit. I'm over here thinking,
Oh yeah.
you've always been a part of me. Please, baby. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
when I say I'm
Okay,
a man of music, it's it it's different every time.
okay. What do you do off of some like '80s rock and roll shit?
Ooh, oh man, Scorpion. Uh, it'll be Aerosmith. It'll be anything I can get my hands on Spotify.
Mm-hmm. I can dig it. Hey, I'm gonna give you one that a lot of people don't know about. Redbone. And shout out to
And,
Redbone because Redbone was like, I believe, the like first front man that was like Native American, and he fucking killed it. And everyone knows it from boom, 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 boom. Come and
no
get
Oh.
your
way.
love. That was Redbone. Okay, Guardians of
What?
the Galaxy blew that shit up. But I
Yeah.
promise you, if you go through their deep cuts, the storytelling, the funk, the it's 80s as 80s gets. It's fantastic. Fantastic. Um, so that's just a little tidbit because I love all kinds of music too. But what are some other things that people might not expect to hear from you? Like unknown aspects of you.
Um, I I'm a person of puzzle. You give me like a knot, and I'll just sit there for hours just trying to untie it. That's how my brain works. I just love figuring out how to unattach or detach things, how to like go through certain aspects with my hands. I love working with my hands. Like give me something to do and I'll just do that for an hour.
Mm, that's way cool. You know, see, I always look at shit from like a super philosophical standpoint, you know, but it's like that's really what you're doing and probably why you love your spiritual journey, right? It's a knot that you're having to untangle, you know? And it's almost like it untangles itself when you just get it the right way. And it's like, am I really handling this right? Am I seeing it right? It's the same way with fucking headphones when you're trying to like untangle headphones and you gotta flip the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? it's like that, but you're doing it with your spiritual hands, with your spiritual senses and stuff, you know? And it seems like you really like delayed gratification, you know? Like the true journey aspect where like, yeah, I get this cherry on top when I cross the finish line, but the journey to that finish line, that keeping busy fulfills me in a way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's no wonder that you found your way to church where you can feel that you're amplifying your servitude, you know? Because being of service is huge.
Shout out to Church of Grace. I'm gonna turn my light on real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Church of Grace. That's where I'm at right now.
Honestly, bro, I think you would be a great Ninja Turtle too for Halloween. Ninja Turtle on Halloween, bro. Like
The important one though is which Ninja Turtle.
Oh man, I have to tell you guys, I was dressed as Ninja Turtle one time, and I was Donatello.
Okay.
I have the glasses. I wear glasses all the time, and I have a cut-up shirt that has the Ninja Turtle shells on it too.
Okay.
And I remember just finding a purple band for whatever reason in my room, and I'm like, gosh dang it! So might as well just dress up for it.
I love it.
I can respect it.
What are some books that changed you on your journey? Are you much of a reader?
I try to be. I'm learning to be, and honestly, right now it's the Bible. Earlier today, I mentioned baptism classes, and within baptism classes, every single day I'm having to read certain chapters within the Bible or the New Testament, and I told Zack, like, I'm reading a part of it right now, and I'm just writing down so many questions that I have, and I'm learning a lot from that. But before all of that, I remember reading The Art of War, and that really helped me set this tone for like who or what can I do to be situationally advantageous.
Bro, that's some deep shit. Okay. I love that book, by the way. That book was so well written, where he's talking about like retreat back over the hill and then fire arrows over the hill. You know what I mean? That's really dope. But in terms of religion, how has it affected you financially? I'm curious about this because have you found yourself to be more abundant the more abundant that you felt?
At times when I'm not thinking about it, yeah. I'm just letting things take over when it does, and just letting myself go in a way. And I figured, like, financially, money is money, but we do need it at the end of the day to survive. So when I'm not thinking about it, pushing hard as I can at work, it just comes in. But whenever I'm out and I'm consciously knowing that I'm spending money, I know that at some point I need to stop because I'm going to run out. So it's a balance, give or take. Financially, it varies.
All right. I was curious about that because, a lot of people don't tie those two things together unless they're like at church and they're hearing, hey, if you offer a tithe or something, you're going to receive a blessing, or many passages in the Bible talk about abundance, right? And I was reading a book that really helped me because I've been studying the like early industrial revolution kind of like pioneers, the Andrew Carnegie's, the Napoleon Hill like teachings and stuff like that. And a lot of what these guys are talking about, I read a book, I believe it was written by Wallace D. Wattles, called The Science of Getting Rich, right? And in The Science of Getting Rich, he was saying that the most holy thing that someone could wish to be while in a physical body is someone that is financially rich as well as physically, abundant. Because if you're financially well off, right, you can afford to take time on building your muscle, right? You have time to think and building your mind, right? And you have time to dedicate yourself to the things that fulfill you spiritually, And it made me look at money different because I never really wanted to put money and religion together. It was like I could compartmentalize my life in these different areas. But I think life is truly about yoga, union, you know what I mean? Of everything. And so that's just a little side note and something that was on my mind. Sometimes I don't leave things open for questions. So, Zach, this is your podcast for the rest of the night. I'm done with my philosophy. I just want to listen.
I don't know, bro. I'm like,
The Big Man podcast needs to be run by the big man instead of me talking about the big man upstairs. You know what I mean?
I don't know, dude. Like, I'm kind of in a spot where I'm not like super talkative. I'll be honest right now.
What's your favorite lift?
There you go. That's a good question. What? Your mic didn't cut. Your mic cut out. Didn't pick it up.
Zack or me?
Oh, you.
Me? Oh man, it would definitely be. It would be the deadlift for sure. For sure. Just because the way that you set up under the bar, uh, feeling that neural, feeling the grip, and figuring out like if my forearms are stable enough to feel it, and just setting myself up into that deadlift position. It feels a lot more better than it would be for a squat, because during competitions, the first thing is a squat, and that's what I'm most nervous about, just because it's the first thing that I'm going to be doing. And if I hurt myself in the very first thing that I do, obviously I can't continue on. So it would definitely be deadlift, because that's the thing that I'm best at. That's the thing that I'm known for.
I love leg movements.
Really...
I fell in love with lunges. Like, I love lunges. Squat's probably my favorite if I were to pick like of the big three. But if I were to just like pick any movement, it's definitely lunges.
So this is interesting. Hip hinge stuff is your guys' favorite.
Yeah.
That's why you guys are big. That's what I'm saying. It's like compound lift hour, okay? Compound the clock.
Yeah. Hip hinge. That's what
cool.
you want. You want all the hip hinge shit. Bench is my dog shit fucking lift. I couldn't break
Mine too.
225, so I'm like, all right, fuck bench. I'm gonna do everything else. I'll just get big legs and a big back. I can get a big chest and not be strong.
So I guess before we let this thing drag on too long and keep you outside in your garage too late.
That's fine.
I want to know a couple things. First of all, what are you going to be doing 5 years from now? What's your future look like?
Definitely opening up my own gym. That is the thing that I've set for myself 2 years ago, for sure. I definitely want to open up my own gym soon.
Okay.
Just being a part of that gym community again, and just developing it in a different way from what anybody else has.
Very nice. I know Zach's been talking about that too. Maybe you guys are going to have to collab. What do you think about the name of it? You got any ideas on the name?
No, that's the one thing that I definitely need to think of a little bit more. I did start off a clothing brand called Grit but there's a whole bunch of other companies out there that are named the same thing too. So it's like, what is my company going to be different from the other ones that are named the same thing? And what can I do to value myself in that way too?
Very cool. Okay, well, I mean, I guess you got a little bit of business planning to do, and I would highly recommend, praying over it and asking who your community is. And, because knowing your target audience is really the biggest thing in business, and once you have the combination of being authentic and doing what you do and learning how to do it for the community in a way that's ever bigger and better and more integral to the community, drawing more people in, you're naturally going to flourish. So I suppose that's an aspect that is going to be a fun journey to work on, especially now that you're starting to assess your work or your worth after reaching the pinnacle in one area. Now you go from being that shark in a pond to being, a minnow again and working it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you see for yourself outside of business, outside of the gym? What are some other aspects for the 5-year stuff down the line?
Owning my own house, owning not just a house, but something more feasible, right? Like everybody talks about how being able to afford anything nowadays is harder than usual, but seeing each and every single step along the way, figuring that out, planning it, definitely finding my own living space is the first thing too.
I love it.
Word.
So becoming strong financially and diversified, I can dig it. All right, well, I tell you what, people are gonna have to just stay out on the lookout for you because you're definitely making an impact. I gotta say thank you because not only have you impacted me, you've impacted Zack, and I just want to commend you and let you know you're welcome on the Happy Hoodlums podcast anytime.
For real.
Really, we started this.
For sure.
Yeah, we started this just because there were so many people that we see as like impactful, people that deserve to be praised, people that are important in the community, and who knows, there may never be an Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron documentary type thing about you. You know what I mean? But there may also be.
Yeah.
But if there isn't, there was a fucking Happy Hoodlums podcast to let it be known in advance, saying thank you. You know what I mean? And I'm sure next time we'll be hearing about how grit got redefined, how your business evolved, how you on a spiritual journey became a better man, in a bigger presence than you already were, and just ever getting stronger. So I want to say thank you. Zack, if you got any final words, Brian, if you got any final words, let it be known now, and then we're closing out.
Oh, thanks for coming on, dude, for real.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for bringing me on. I'm definitely glad you guys are in my life. You guys have definitely, Zack and you, Kemper, especially seeing you over at the gun store too. You guys have definitely put me in a place in this world and outside of it too, and like what to do a little bit more. Like, how can I see myself more outside?
Hey, that journey is important, and we truly make each other better men. And I just want to also add, one of the most beautiful things about a podcast that I never expected is that, there are so many times that I wish people would have just told me that I really was who I thought I was, And sometimes what makes us so unique is right under our nose. It's just a part of our journey, so it's everyday shit to us. So I hope that this just works as encouragement, and that you never stop, because you'll always continue to get better. You'll always continue to make more of an impact. And this is just the beginning. So for us to be a stepping stone in your journey onto bigger and better versions of yourself is truly an honor. And we're going to leave it there. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'll see you at the gym sometime soon.
Hey.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, guys.